Welcome back to episode 2 of Lebanon and the Bible, where ancient history and scriptures meet. From the towering cedars of Lebanon to the biblical stories that shaped faith, we'll uncover the hidden connections between this remarkable land and the pages of the Bible. Let's dive in. With about 20 miles between them, Tyre and Sidon are two areas in present-day Lebanon the Bible sometimes mentions together. Zechariah 9 verse 2, Matthew 11:21. Sidon takes its name from Canaan's firstborn, Genesis 10 verse 15. Hiram, king of Tyre, reigned during the time of David and Solomon. He is even described as being on friendly terms with David. 1 Kings 5 verse 1. Hiram was also the one who sent them both lumber from Lebanon for their building project. 2 Samuel 5 verse 11, 1 Kings 9 verse 11, and 1 Chronicles 14 verse 1. Tyre and Sidon frequently appear in the prophetic books as objects of God's judgment. In Isaiah 23 1-2, Ezekiel 26 verse 3, and Amos 1 verse 9. These areas are also significant in the New Testament. Tyre and Sidon represent one of Jesus' few forays into non-Jewish areas in Matthew 15:21 and also Mark 7:31. People from these areas traveled to hear him teach. Luke 6 verse 17. Jesus also referenced these cities when he rebuked Chorazin and Bethsaida, where he had done extensive ministry and signs. He said, "Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the miracles had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, which occurred in you, they would have repented long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. But it will be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon in the judgment than for you." Luke 10:13-14 and Matthew 11:21-22. With this rebuke, Jesus drew on the prophet's frequent denunciation of Tyre and Sidon for their wicked deeds. Yet, even they, Jesus declared, would have repented if they had witnessed the miracles Jesus did. Thus, Chorazin and Bethsaida would face a harsher judgment because not even the presence of God incarnate or his signs moved them to faith. Paul stopped at Sidon on his way to Rome after appealing to Caesar in Acts 27 verse 3. The primary residents of Lebanon in biblical times were the Phoenicians. They likely descended from the sea people, wandering seafarers who settled across the eastern Mediterranean in the 13th and 12th centuries BCE. Philistines were amongst these groups, Amos 9 verse 7 and Jeremiah 47 verse 4. Significant Phoenician settlements included Cyprus, Carthage, and Tripolis, including Tyre and Sidon. The Phoenicians had much in common with Canaanite cultures discussed in the Old Testament. Their religious practice followed Canaanite paganism and involved idol worship, which the Bible condemns. Indeed, Scripture describes how Solomon followed the pagan worship of Sidon, one of the Phoenician cities in Lebanon, when his foreign wives led him astray. He followed Astoria, the goddess of the Sidonians, in 1 Kings 11 verse 5. The prophet often chastised Tyre and Sidon, indicating their idolatrous worship and practices. Much of what the Bible has to say about those living in Lebanon then calls out their idolatry, but they were by no means beyond God's grace. Isaiah beautifully described how even those nations whom God judged will be blessed alongside Israel. That day, Israel will be the third party with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing in the midst of the earth, whom the Lord of hosts has blessed, saying, "Blessed is Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my inheritance." Isaiah 19:24-25. For centuries, Lebanon was part of the Ottoman Empire. After this empire fell in World War I, Lebanon came under French control. The influence of French language and culture is still evident in aspects of Lebanon today, especially its architecture. In 1943, Lebanon emerged as an independent country. Most of Lebanon's population identifies as Lebanese Arabs. They are descendants of the ancient Phoenicians and have historically been the dominant ethnic group in the country. Lebanon is home to a significant Armenian population, primarily descendants of survivors of the Armenian genocide. Armenians have their own distinct culture, language, and traditions. There is a small Kurdish population in Lebanon, primarily residing in the Baku Valley and Beirut. Kurds often maintain close ties with the larger Kurdish communities in the neighboring countries. In addition, Lebanon is among the nations in the Middle East with the highest number of Christians in their midst. Lebanon is also home to a small Assyrian and Syriac population, who are ethnic minorities with roots in ancient Mesopotamia. They have a distinct culture, language, and religious traditions. Lebanon hosts a large population of Palestinian refugees and their descendants. Many Palestinians live in refuge camps across Lebanon and face socio-economic challenges. Some of these Palestinians helped found and support Hezbollah and Shiite Muslim militia, founded in 1985. Hezbollah calls for Israel's destruction and swears allegiance to Iran. Hezbollah mainly operates out of the southern Lebanon, from which it launches attacks against Israel's northern border.